بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My dear brothers and sisters, inshallah we wanted to talk and continue our reading of the summary of Imam Al-Bayhaqi's book, Al-Iman, the branches of faith, which we were reading in the masjid some days after Salat al-Fajr, and we've gotten close to the end of the book, so with Allah's permission we would like to continue until we can finish the book, inshallah ta'ala. In a summarized form. I'm not reading it word for word, but in a summarized form. So the author mentions one of the branches of faith, the 57th branch of faith, is Husn al-Khuluq. Husn al-Khuluq, which usually is translated as good character. And good character is quite a broad statement, or quite a broad concept. Good character includes suppressing one's anger. It includes being gentle and easy with people. It includes being patient with people. It includes being humble and not being arrogant. Right? In a way, it is an umbrella term for all that is good in terms of moral character, as it relates to other people and as it relates to Allah Azza wa Jal. So, from good character is that we love to fulfill the commands of Allah. From good character is that we hate to disobey Allah. We hate to do that which is prohibited from Allah Azza wa Jal. This is all part of good character. And then the other part of good character is how we deal with each other as brothers and sisters. How we deal with each other as brothers and sisters. So he mentions here a number of ayat from the Quran and ahadith, which we'll read some of, inshallah. He mentions here that Allah told the Prophet ﷺ, وَإِنَّكَ عَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ, that you are surely, Ya Rasulullah, you are surely on a tremendous nature, or of high character. You have this great character, alhamdulillah. And that teaches us another thing, a couple of things. One is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to enforce to the Prophet ﷺ that he was his manifestation of good character was pleasing to Allah. That's one thing. But also for us, that we would take the Prophet ﷺ as an example in terms of how do we define good character, who is our role model, how do we look and how should we take the life of the Prophet ﷺ and look at his example and be able to follow that. How was he with his friends? How was he ﷺ with his enemies? How was he with his family? How was he with his children and grandchildren? How was he with his followers? Did he make things easy for them? Did he make things difficult for them? What was his nature and character? So we find from this verse from Allah Azza wa Jal that the Prophet's character is of the highest nature and highest caliber. So we should look to him as our guide. Then Allah mentions another characteristic of the believer, وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. That those people suppress their anger and forgive other people. Assuredly Allah loves those who do good deeds. Those who are muhsineen, those who excel and do good in this life, Allah loves them, alhamdulillah. So these characteristics, that we're forgiving, we suppress our anger and we forgive other people. These are from the highest and most noble characteristics that a believer can have. That we are forgiving, that we suppress our anger, that even if we are slow to anger, we're slow to anger, but even when we anger, we are slow to forgive. This is the nature and the goal that the believer should have. That he or she is slow to anger and quick to forgive. And unfortunately, a lot of us are the opposite. May Allah help us. But a lot of us are quick to anger and slow to forgive. So one argument or one misunderstanding might ruin whole relationships. Allah musta'an. May Allah forgive us and give us, guide us to that which is the best character. And the Prophet, the author mentions here a number of ahadith related from the Prophet to the Prophet ﷺ, one of which is recorded in Bukhari and Muslim. He said, from Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As radiallahu anhuma, أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لم يكن فاحشا ولا متفحشا وقال إن من خياركم أحسنكم أخلاقا وفي رواية إن من أحبكم إلي أحسنكم أخلاقا. He said that the Prophet ﷺ was never immoderate. He was never immoderate or immoral, and he was not obscene. And he mentions the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, amongst those of you who are most beloved to me are those who have the finest character. Many those of you who have the finest character are most beloved to me. So those of us who are hoping that we might somehow do something in this life to earn the love of Allah Azza wa Jal, to learn the love and pleasure of the Prophet ﷺ, so that we might see him on the Day of Judgment, and he is happy with us as our Prophet, and we are happy with him. Right? Whoever of us wants to have that relationship with Allah, then we should try to implement these characteristics and try to refine our character. This is the nature of this religion. The Prophet ﷺ said that he was only sent to refine character and refine these traits in the human being. Right? This is part of our religion, that we refine. Not only do we live to worship Allah and obey Him in our worship and His commands and prohibitions, but we do so also to refine our character and to be better people, that we might live not only for worshipping Allah, but through worshipping Allah we would help and serve humanity and be good people living in the service of others. Right? And Aisha radiallahu anha mentioned in Bukhari and Muslim as well, that the Prophet ﷺ, he never chose between two things except he chose the easiest one, unless it was something which was ithm. فَإِنْ كَانَ إِثْمٌ كَانَ أَبْعَدَ النَّاسِ مِنْهُ. But if it was something which was haram, something which was a sin, he was the furthest away from it. Then she mentioned radiallahu anha وعن أبيها, may Allah be pleased with her and her father, she mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ never sought retribution, that he never sought retribution and revenge against anyone for something that they might have done against him. He never sought revenge for something that was done to him, but he would pardon them. But if it was something related to the sanctity of Allah, he would seek retribution for that, for the sake of Allah, but not for his own sake. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is some of the character of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And these things, this topic specifically could be a number of lectures, and we've talked about this at the Islamic Center of Maryland. We've given khutbahs about this. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned to the Prophet ﷺ, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَظًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ فَاعْفُ عَنْهُمْ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَوَكِّلِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet ﷺ, it is out of Allah's mercy, Ya Rasulullah, O Prophet, that you had been lenient with them. Had you been cruel or hard-hearted, tough with them, they certainly would have abandoned you. They would have left you completely. And He's not here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually talking about the Sahaba after the battle of Uhud. Despite the mistakes of some of the Sahaba in disobeying the order of the Prophet ﷺ, in terms of the strategy on the battlefield, he dealt with them kindly. He dealt with them patiently. And they stayed with him and they rectified their condition. They realized their mistake and they rectified their condition. If he had been tough with them, they would have abandoned him. And this is, as we mentioned before in other talks, we have to really look at the context of this verse. I mean, this verse is, subhanAllah, even the best generation of all of humanity, even they would have left the best of creation if he had been tough with them, alayhi salatu wasalam. If he had been tough and hard-hearted with them, even then they would have left him, despite the fact that he is the best of creation, and they were the best people to live after the prophets, alayhi salatu wasalam. So even in that case, despite that, if he had been tough with them, they would have abandoned him. Allah musta'an. So this was from the mercy of Allah that He dealt with them gently and patiently, right? So Allah tells him, فَاعْفُ عَنْهُمْ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. So pardon them and ask Allah's forgiveness for them. Allah is telling the Prophet ﷺ to ask forgiveness for them and consult them in conducting matters. And when you make a decision, put your trust in Allah, and Allah surely loves those who trust in Him. Allah surely loves those who trust in Him. So subhanAllah, even despite their mistakes, he was asked to consult them in his decision-making process and to keep them involved, to hear their opinions, to make them feel respected and valued, to teach them leadership skills. I mean, these are some of the most tremendous blessings that Allah gave to His Prophet ﷺ and to the first generation, that He raised them up. He didn't put them down. He didn't make them yes men or yes women, but He taught them how to be leaders. They had in their hearts, out of love for Allah and the love for the Prophet ﷺ, they had, in that sense, they were sam'an wa ta'an. They were willing to do whatever was commanded of them. But despite that, the Prophet ﷺ, from his noble character and teachings, his mission was to uplift them and to make them leaders and to make them people of understanding and wisdom, and so that when they took over in the decision-making process after the passing of the Prophet ﷺ, in a worldly sense, that they would know how decisions were made. They were able to make tough decisions. They were able to understand issues. They were able to sit down together with one another and discuss matters and come up with the best decision making, the best decisions for the sake of the community. These skills are not learned overnight. These skills take a long time, and they don't happen if someone's not respected or if someone doesn't feel respected. They have to be developed and nurtured over a period of time. And this is what he did, alayhi salatu wasalam, so that when he left this world, he left them in a state of Islam and leadership, that they could continue this religion until the end of time, inshallah. That they were able to preserve the religion, to practice the religion, to understand it, and to preserve it and pass it on to the following generations. Right? So this sort of nature, to be kind with them and lenient with them and patient with them and develop them and nurture them, this does not happen overnight. This takes a lot of work from leadership, and it takes a lot of effort from the followers, that they would listen and grow with him, alayhi salatu wasalam. But this is just one example amongst many examples where we see in the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam how he uplifted people, how his character uplifted people, how his patience with them uplifted people, how his wisdom in certain situations, how that uplifted people. This is the kind of character that we're talking about. When we talk about good character, this is the kind of character that we're talking about. These are some examples of the nature of the Prophet ﷺ, his good nature, which we take as our role model. Right? And these trickle down to everything in our lives. These trickle down to our families. These trickle down in our lives and our work, in businesses. Many of you are professionals, and you might be in leadership positions. You might be in positions where you're a boss and you have people under your authority. You might be in a position where you own a business and you have workers in your business, right? And that sort of thing. How we deal with those people in that position tells us a lot about our character, right? As does even being in a subservient position. If you're an employee and you have a boss and you have someone giving you orders, how you deal with their orders, how you deal with their instructions, even when they might not be the nicest people. They might be rude, they might be aggressive, they might not even like you because you're a Muslim. How do you deal with such people? Right? That also is part of our character, that we return that hate with not only kindness, but more importantly, we return it with the kind of wisdom that allows us to reflect that hatred and not return it back. Right? And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from those who might hate us solely for the sake of our religion or anything like that. Inshallah, we can, even despite their hatred or despite their harshness, we're able to reply to that with patience and wisdom in a way that might touch them and affect their hearts, and understand that we are actually not their enemy. If anything, we want the best for them, which is to find Islam and to know Allah Azza wa Jal, and to know the purpose of their own existence. This is this is the goal of the human being. Shaitan wants to lead the human being into the hellfire. He wants to misguide them until they find their place in the hellfire. So we should hope and pray that our objective when dealing with people is not the same objective as Shaitan. We should hope and pray that our objective is not the same as Shaitan's objective. So we might deal with people in a way that gives them some sort of opportunity to find and see the truth of Islam and know their creator and the reason for their own existence. And Allah might guide them somehow through us. May Allah guide us and guide others by us, and allow us to be a means by which Allah guides others. Ameen ya Rabb. Jazakumullah khair. Inshallah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you and your families. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the best of this life and the best of the next life. We ask Allah to send abundant peace and blessings upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad, upon his family, upon his companions, upon all those who follow him until the end of time. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. ربنا اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت فإنك تقضي ولا يقضى عليك. آمين يا أرحم الراحمين. وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. وجزاكم الله خير. Allah bless you all. Until next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.